There are many things in America that we look back in the past, especially if we look back at the past 150 years to present day. Many things we have seen in our nation as we have evolved as a people that we see clearly has only happened. I'm talking about good things, things that have only happened because we have been a people led by God's Spirit. If we go back even to the days of slavery, we would understand clearly that if people were simply taking the Bible, the red letter of the law, and deciding should we have slavery or should we not, there would still be slavery today, just like there is in many other nations. How many of you guys understand the Bible doesn't have anything negative to say about slavery? Are you aware of that? In fact, are you aware that even Jesus himself spoke to the heart of the slave when he said, be a good slave to your master, because culturally speaking, it just wasn't unusual. It was normal, culturally speaking. And God never addressed slavery as a problem on any level. Isn't that interesting? And yet, in America, we came to a place under the rule of God where He began to carve His law not on stone, but on the hearts of people. And we began to realize things through the nature of God that it's just not right. Some things are not right. And we could feel it in our spirit. This is not right. George Washington, even as the first president, the father of our country, when slavery was very common, said, my lifelong dream is the abolition of slavery in this great nation. Generations before it ever took place. And then another great patriot would come on the scene named Abraham Lincoln, who would take it to a new level. Abraham Lincoln, just like George Washington, two great patriots who never sought the positions they were in. In fact, had lists of failures longer than their lists of successes in life, but they had the heart of a patriot. And they basically said what Isaiah said, here am I, Lord, use me, send me. And they were led by the Spirit. So when slavery became officially, legally abolished in America, it was for one reason and one reason only, because we were one nation under God, being led by the Spirit of God. No other reason. It was the same time, in fact, it was the same year that it was written upon the documents that it was illegal to own another man, that it was also written upon documents, and it's also illegal to steal another man's property, even if we see that man as barbaric, not equal to one of us. And of course, I'm speaking of the American Indian. If we took just the Bible and we defined our philosophies of life by just the red letter of the law in the Bible, not only would we not find Scripture that says don't steal land from people unlike you, we would find a whole Old Testament that's full of God's commands to His people saying, go take their land, you can have it if you want it. Now we understand the context of all that. God was just trying to get a message to anyone that would be His people saying the whole earth is yours and all that's in it, go get it. But even under the law, as the law was carved on stone that said, do not steal, it became very obvious that did not include the people of God stealing land from other people. Because as God handed out the law, He was also barking out orders, go take their land. And so in America, it was common with that philosophy that when we landed on these shores, that we began to see these people who were not as up to speed where we were at in life, coming from Europe. And we would see them as less valuable, and it would not matter if we stole their land and did anything we wanted to them, abolished them. And therefore, America has very personal history in something that we call ethnic cleansing, that we see in other parts of the world and go, oh, that's terrible. But we forget we had our own ethnic cleansing many generations ago, where it was fine to wipe out the American Indian. But the Spirit of God, one nation under God, the Spirit of God began to move in people's hearts and said, this is not right. And men changed what they were doing. We can bump ahead all through history, even going to just 65 years ago. That's where the 65 was lodged in my head. When we thought it would be proper in war times to nuke a nation, killing civilian lives in order to save our military lives. And it seemed perfectly prim and proper. How many of you guys think that that attitude exists on any level in America today? No. There is no way that America would tolerate us going and dropping nukes on civilians in order to save our military lives. There is no way that we would begin to embrace that on any level whatsoever. At the time, it seemed perfectly fine. But as one nation continued to submit to God, stay under God's rule and His reign, being led by the Spirit, generation by generation, the Lord has been reproofing us. And He's been forming us. And He's been speaking to us and carving His law on our hearts instead of just stones. And we have found that the law of God carved on our heart is the very nature of God Himself. And it goes beyond just the red letter of the law. And America today is a great, great, great nation and has been from the onset, from glory to glory, as He's been changing us for one reason only. We are a nation that has allowed ourselves to be led by the Spirit of God. There's a long list of things that are broken in America today, but there's also a long list of things in America today that 50 years ago we thought was perfectly fine, that today we do not see it that way. How many of you guys can say, with all honesty today, that you believe that male and female is equal? How many years ago was that not our philosophy in America? That the value system of America was based on skin color and based on gender. But our founding fathers established a perimeter, a target for us to shoot for, and where it established that all men were created equal, had the same rights, the same opportunities, and that's not what we began to realize when they wrote those documents, but over time, as we've been led by the Spirit, we have been realizing what the founding fathers established as the guidelines defining who we would be as a nation. I submit to you it's not over.